Well, since I'm talking countdowns after the Mario movie teaser trailer got announced, it's another big anticipation when I look at Sonic Frontiers at this point. And barring the cyberspace level gripe I have with the game, I basically came with the stance come the end of June a few months ago that I'm essentially sold on the game being worth the buy or thinking it'll be good. But with how much positive PR and how much more I'm finding out about this game and watching more of it, I think I'm thoroughly convinced more and more this might actually be a Sonic game for the books. Gameplays, interviews from the developers, extra details and stuff coming out about this game, screenshots, just mulling over more and more about the game's settings, scope, combat, levels, and other tidbits and whatnot. Like, it's just a weird feeling I'm working myself up towards, and I'm thinking, are we finally there? Like, actually there? Like, this is finally a good, maybe even a great, fantastic, or even stellar mainline 3D Sonic after 11 years. We finally reached that destination. Like, one of the reasons this feels weird to me is obviously Forces and Lost World, mainly Forces, just convincing myself and many others before it came out it's gonna be another good one because it's Boost huffing all this kind of copium and whatnot, and then it wound up being one of the most flaccid Sonic games ever in like every sense of the standard for a video game. So to go through pre-hype again feels weird and off. And yet, there's so much more reason to buy into that hype of Frontiers, like so much more going for this game than the last two Sonic games this past decade. So many people who played the demo of the game recently at Tokyo Game Show say it's good, and other previous demo showcases, the vast majority who played it saying it was good, details about their experiences, all the stuff I listed off a minute ago. And some of the spokespeople said this in some interviews. I think I'll get into that after I say this. But I feel like whether you're not looking forward to this game, thinking it might suck, smack dab in the middle, just kind of feeling whatever, it might be good, I don't care, and a little optimistic or super on board with the game already, any stance. I fully believe this game is gonna mark a huge new turning point and new era for Sonic as both a franchise and a series. It's a very ambitious undertaking Sonic's gone through that, from my perspective, seems to be playing out very well and effectively, largely. There seems to be a lot of appeal with the various ideas, options, and mechanics on display. There's a lot of effort and genuine care and passion going into this game in a lot of areas that I can't help but feel both comfort and faith, but also curiosity and excitement for this new game, even with its questionable marketing since its initial reveal, which also got so much better this last month or so. On the developer side, Takashi Iizuka, head of Sonic Team and producer for most Sonic games including Frontiers, and Morio Kishimoto, director of Frontiers, have spoken a lot about this game since June throughout the rest of this past summer, and believe it or not, I think there's some weight behind a lot of what they're saying. I don't have the links to these interviews right now. I got pockets of this kind of information throughout the summer I managed to retain, but don't have the links or sources at the moment making this video, so if someone asks, either someone else will have to provide links in the comments to some of these. I hope they get a ton of attention, or I'll plop them in the description over time, or you'll have to take my word for it. I apologize. But both guys described in several different instances multiple things. For one, the fact this game went through kind of a development hell. This game started development after Forces, assessing that game's criticism regarding the level's length and designs. I'm pretty sure Kishimoto's the one that felt a Sonic game solely founded on Unleashed's boost formula only is no longer sustainable or enough to satisfy most Sonic fans, and unsure if it's just him, Iizuka, or both on this. They felt Sonic's linear nature of his games limited players on fully utilizing his core philosophies, so they came to the open world design for a Sonic game. They had to completely start from scratch at one point, trying to realize the game's direction and potential. They basically restarted development at some point, similar to Metroid Prime 4, COVID coming in halfway, and remote development making some development aspects tricky while others accelerated. And I wish I didn't find this among a sea of tweets weeks ago. Iizuka and Kishimoto were mad adamant on extending development time on this game against the wishes of higher-ups at Sega. They encouraged the delay back in 2021 and wanted more time in the oven to develop the game for that quality assurance, and felt this game needed it. This also gives a stark contrast to the impression fans have had about both Iizuka and Kishimoto, and there are some definite comments and statements both guys have made in the past I do disagree with, but not only is it nice to see those guys have a backbone, but both guys still seem very passionate and especially delicate and observant when it comes to the development of this game the further you dive into these interviews. Sega themselves were an obstacle at some point trying to rush it, and there's reason to suspect the same for probably a large chunk of past Sonic titles rather than Sonic Team themselves. They mentioned how Sonic games are more than just going fast or holding boosts to be fun/good. That literal exact critique Sonic fans that don't like the boost have for those games. They basically said the exact same thing not too long ago. They already have an idea on what the next Sonic game after this one's gonna be. There's even more beyond all of this, but they're understanding. I was terrified they were gonna screw up, bro. A lot of recent 3D games played it very safe in a lot of ways, to some lengths Frontiers is as far as the cyberspace levels, and still fumbled in some area, if not multiple. So for them to try an ambitious open world 3D Sonic game with all this combat and collectibles and other stuff made me worry they were climbing a very steep hill for them to deal with, especially when most of the 4 years developing forces was for the engine, not the game. But it's looking like more and more they knew what they were doing and how to tackle it effectively, and this and past development struggles wouldn't be the first time anyways. Might have been a byproduct of Sega's decisions and the higher-ups at that company, significantly more than Sonic Team. They're literally taking a good chunk of the critiques and feedbacks from Forces and other games and applying them largely well to this game, looking at how it functions and plays, and going off other people's comments and experiences with the game itself. I'll get more into gameplay stuff later, but even just the PR, so many outlets, channels, and fans who got to play Frontiers are gassing the absolute hell out of this game in so many different ways, and plenty gameplay reels provided do give solid affirmation to those assessments too. In Japan, the Tokyo Game Show, Frontiers is not only gaining a ton of marketing over there, but the game also won the most anticipated game of the year at the show, alongside Frontiers garnering a legitimate audience over there. Sonic never has a huge audience in Japan. Sonic games always flop in Japan. So for a new Sonic title to gain this much appeal in his own homeland, for Japan to actually care about a new Sonic game, this much anticipation and genuine appeal, something Sonic probably hasn't been able to do in Japan since, I want to say, Sonic 3 or Adventure, I'd imagine. Definitely a long ass time. That's huge. And once again, so many people who got their feet wet with the demo are giving it plenty of praises. Masahiro Sakurai, famous Super Smash Bros. Director, is among them too. When a Sonic game has Sakurai's seal of approval, that's another feat in of itself, with how respected and admired he is in the gaming industry. The game had the max capacity for people to play the demo on all 3 days too at the event, and even outside Japan, here in the West, for more Sonic fans. The control, the open world, the platforming and exploration, the combat, the design, even the cyberspace levels, like, it's way too voluminous. It's way too massive to just ignore or dismiss. This video might as well be among that pile, at least from the perspective of a spectator of all this Frontiers press and information. But dude, it's also at least way more positive and especially contextual than Forces was in both information and appeal. That cannot be understated. Critiques to how rough the game looked, some cyberspace critiques, the combat, the design, etc., and even smaller stuff like animations, control, polish, etc. A ton of them seem to be answered or improved from last June based on how people are praising the game's numerous facets from the recent demo. Not only that, but it's surreal in 2 different things. For one, it's surreal in just how much there is to this game than we've seen in any Sonic game since Sonic Unleashed, I want to say. Unleashed had 2 styles, one of which sporting a defined style for Sonic with solid gameplay, great level design, and the other focused more on combat and encouraging attack and combo variety amidst more levels suiting that style. Both styles having branches in their form, experience-based upgrades, the game also having mini hub worlds, a solid narrative, missions, spare levels, multiple collectibles among medals, songs, concept art, etc., cutscenes and such. And that was basically about it. Colors had just 1 style, a couple dozen levels, some remade older levels in a side mode, a simple story, 1 collectible, and that was about it. Generations had 2 styles across 9 levels, couple bosses, a lot of missions in those same levels primarily for collectibles, a simple to non-existent story. That was also about it. Lost World, 1 style, 32 levels, most with their own gimmicks and questionable design and whatnot. Very straightforward structure and experience all the same. Very poor story on top. Forces had 3 styles, but was also straightforward as well with short levels, poor design, a poor story as well, like every Sonic game since Colors. In my opinion, were and or felt very simple and straightforward in structure with not a lot of meat or substance to their overall makeup, or not a lot that was good. Generations is a good game with good levels and level design, but my point is beyond those levels. There's not a whole lot to Generations, and you could say something similar, if not the same or worse, for Colors, Lost World, and Forces. All three of those games having varying degrees of quality across their gameplay, their styles, their story, etc., or completely different alternate problems altogether. Frontiers. You have 5 giant sandboxes to explore and discover, hundreds of platforming challenges and puzzles to find and clear across all 5, a bunch of enemies to fight and defeat, with a variety of ways to actually defeat them, a bunch of linear levels with cyberspace that match more of Sonic's traditional style of gameplay, a myriad of collectibles to find that grant all these different things and ways to progress throughout the game, one of which is this side minigame you can do as well, all surrounding a more serious, supposedly melancholy story for Sonic that also seems to be his most engrossing and interesting narrative since Unleashed as well. Depth. There's so much depth to this game already. Depth in the combat, the amount of moves, the skill tree, enemy variety, ways to defeat smaller, larger, weaker, and stronger enemies, etc. Depth in the open zone design, how vast and open these islands are, all this stuff to do, all these collectibles to find and ways to just progress in the game, even some depth in the cyberspace levels, primarily when looking at some of the more originally designed ones, albeit most are ripping designs from past Sonic games, maybe even depth in the story as we'll find out later. There's so much about these different parts of the game, and so much that we know about this game at this point, yet there's still a ton we also have yet to see and have no idea about. Yet all that we do know has a lot of ground for a foundation to warrant that hype for me and hundreds of thousands, probably millions of Sonic fans to be excited over. It's surreal with how much this game is doing and seemingly executing pretty well, but it's also surreal in how this is probably our first big budget Sonic title since Sonic Unleashed. Damn, there's a lot of Unleashed comparisons today. But the fact we're getting a big budget Sonic title again, after all this time, that's a very good feeling, dude. Same for the marketing too. The marketing from August onward has been a complete 180 of how bizarrely poorly marketed Frontiers was, and between these new trailers, song teases, screenshots and such recently, the TGS trailer, the overview trailer, etc., and more details and interviews on top, the game's marketing legit got so much better lately. It's like I'm witnessing an evolution. But bringing this back to my own brain, my own feelings and dissections, and less about others' opinions and assessments, this game is starting to rival Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope as my most anticipated game of the year. That alone sets a mad high bar for how much I want to play and get Frontiers now. That, and like, when it comes to almost anything Mario, I expect a good game. I can expect a good game whenever there's a new Mario game. Most Mario games, you can call good and expect new releases such. As a result, I expected Forces to be good. No, it was not. I had no idea what to expect from Lost World. That was not good either. So I don't expect a new Sonic game to automatically be good when they announce it, man. This is new for me, bro. Stuff like Mania is one thing, but mainline 3D Sonic? Hell nah! So to hear all these great things, cool stuff, and for me to think we're about to get a banger 3D game again, that is so foreign to me right now. If you wanted me to dissect it piece by piece and explain why I'm hyped though, I'll start with the open design and looking at more screenshots and trailers, the desert island, the canyon island, this volcano island, Sonic riding this robot bird of some kind. Like, ever since the very beginning, the one thing that always made me curious and optimistic about this game, just running around the world. I want to boost and explore this world. The islands look cool, especially the islands that aren't the first plains looking ones we keep seeing. I think it's called Kronos Island. Sonic looks like he can move very fast and brisk around the islands while also having firm and solid controls at the same time. The controls, dude, I mentioned sliders in the demo in a previous video or two. There are sliders that adjust Sonic's speed, turning, acceleration and such. That's confirmed to be in the final game. Again, a Sonic game giving you customizability and how he'll control, that's unheard of for a Sonic game, and also pretty freaking cool. Being able to adjust Sonic to an optimal control setting is awesome and great for that, and anyone who might just want a more narrow, linear, stiff Sonic, or people might try and find a hybrid of Boost and Adventure Sonic with those settings. The fact plenty say it controls nice and you're able to adjust that is awesome. The island's design sick too, the vast open landscapes enough to intrigue me, but the more you look, there's a strong sense of varying levels of terrain, hills, mountains, valleys and such, bolstered more by the fact that Sonic can run on walls, and there's that natural, normal sense of parkour back. Closer to the adventure games than Lost World parkour, I'd say. It looks solid. I'm sure the puzzles, platforming and such will get tougher the further along you are in the game, but they seem decent and fun to do too. The fun and reward will probably just come in both finding and exploring what else you can do on these islands amongst these vast landscapes, alongside discovering any crevices and secrets on your own. Akin to Breath of the Wild, you get these seeds, tokens, and skill points for your skill tree throughout the game from either exploring, platforming, defeating enemies, doing puzzles and such. You get seeds of power or seeds of defense. I'm assuming they boost Sonic's offense and defense in this game. Sonic has offense, defense, speed, and ring capacity. You can upgrade in this game from exploring. Skill points do the same for Sonic's combat abilities as well. There are tokens themed after Sonic's friends you get for exploring and doing puzzles and such on these islands too. Amy memory tokens are those little hearts. Knuckles' memory tokens are these achievement medal looking collectibles. Tails will obviously get a memory token. You nab those to free Sonic's friends. There are these purple coins scattered around the islands too. You get those, and enough of them lets you access a purple portal to play Big the Cat's fishing minigame. Same for additional chances to do that, and clearing those fishing minigames nets you treasure tokens you can trade in to buy memory tokens, voice diaries that allow Sonic to talk to other characters, portal fragments, vault keys, and a gold card. Also, the little stone people inhabiting the island, the Cocos. This game's equivalent to the Koroks from Breath of the Wild, basically. You find them by exploring the islands too, and those little guys are confirmed to be where you upgrade Sonic's offense, defense, and ring capacity at the very least, but they also can provide fast travel when you find them, which is also great. That's not all there is to it either. Some people question all those random raised platforms and grind rails and such in some trailers and gameplays throughout the island that seemed either random or look very far out of reach. Exploring these islands and or doing some puzzles and platforming challenges, getting to those, will reward you not only these collectibles throughout the game, but also add terrain and level design and expand these islands further. They reward you for exploring by giving you more room to run around in. On top of collectibles, they give the terrain more ground to cover and change it as you go along and or make it easier to move around parts of the island. That is exactly what I wanted Super Mario Odyssey's post-game to do. That's exactly what I wanted in one of my favorite Mario games ever. And I am getting that in a Sonic game that happened to be open world sandbox and closer to Breath of the Wild by comparison. Yes, dude, I love that shit. That's a me thing. They're catering to me with that one. There's a lot to do and explore in these islands, and you're incentivized to explore, if not by the island's design and platforming design, you're doing so to upgrade Sonic's speed, his combat abilities, his strength, his defense, ring capacity, to find tokens to free Sonic's friends, for extra/expanded level design along these islands, for purple coins, for Big's fishing minigame, for fast travel via Cocos 2, not to mention just finding enemies and the cyberspace levels. And some of these rewards are a means to nab other rewards I didn't even talk about. There's literally a dozen incentives to explore and go around these islands. That's one of the biggest things you need for these giant sandbox open world games. I'm really happy and excited there are this many incentives to engage in the game's open design. And even as far as just boosting around, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I heard this from another guy. I don't know if it's true or not. Correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently Sonic's boost isn't exactly the same as it was before either, if not in specific areas of the game. He has a stamina bar basically. Boost is stamina based, then given its own ring/wisp based energy bar. It's not that far off from how it was before. It's more limited now, but you're not invincible while boosting either. Like that blue aura in past boost games where Sonic can just plow through enemies easily. Apparently he doesn't do that here. It might be dependent on how strong an enemy is in the open zone, or if it does apply to Cyberspace 2. I did see a stronger, faster blue aura to boost Sonic can do later on, I'm assuming via upgrades, but it looks like there's a bigger emphasis on careful platforming and navigation rather than mindlessly holding down the boost button, quite literally staring directly in the eyes of all the boost to win comments plenty of fans threw at all the boost games. That's interesting, and I believe better, given it sounds like even on a fundamental level of Sonic having the boost, it's a more engaging experience nerfing the boost like that and not immediately making Sonic this invincible force. And even then, the combat exemplifies that really well too. A lot of enemies in Guardians follow this design template to where you can tell they're all a part of the same tech the island has. You're fighting against They're all part of the same group. You could pick them out from a distance. But some enemies can be homing attacked in one shot. Others require more attacks to beat. Others require specific ways to attack them, like attacking from their top side, waiting for an opening to hit a weak spot, or when they finish attacking, using the Psy loop. This applies to Guardians too. Sonic can utilize a parry attack with the shoulder buttons pressed at once and send attacks back, which also looks cool as shit. The bounce from SA2 is back. That's awesome to hear, though I hear it's closer to Lost World's bounce with its fixed height. Either way, it's cool. Drop dashes in the game, some of Sonic's moves like the projectile Windblade attack. It's called the Sonic Boom here. This 10-ball projectile move Sonic can do to send to the opponent called the homing shot. This spin blade one, I think it's called the spin slash. Several of Sonic's attacks look awesome in this game. There's even a way to cancel the homing attack. You can cancel a homing attack in tech in my Sonic game? Excuse me? Yes? Hello? Yes? Yes? Tech in my Sonic game? That sounds sick! Dialing back to the combat though, some enemies also lose health faster based on like stronger attacks, or might potentially be only attacked with specific upgraded moves. I don't know if that's true or not. Like, there's strategy to how the combat in this game works and how you go about facing enemies and monsters in the game. And when you add how many moves Sonic can do and add to his repertoire, when you can upgrade for Sonic, the depth and amount of engagement and strategy in both the combat and upgrade system, it's significantly deeper and more interesting than Sonic Unleashed's combat and upgrades ever was, and I love Sonic Unleashed. And speaking of, some Guardians of Titans Sonic has to fight, he literally can't even scratch normally, so we need Super Sonic to take down certain Guardians and Titans, which is awesome. Not to mention the fact Super Sonic and the Chaos Emeralds are finally plot relevant to a mainline Sonic game again after so long, since Generations 11 years ago. If you don't count that, then at least 14 years ago. I missed having the Chaos Emeralds and Super Sonic as a main plot element in the main campaign. I'm so glad they're used in a much more impactful and dramatic way than both as a collectible completionist reward, and even more than just the MacGuffins to fight the final boss. Like, hell yeah, that's very cool and awesome that Super Sonic's unlocked mid-game, and several bosses throughout the game are gonna be final boss levels of bosses in both spectacle, durability, and scale. So then that makes you wonder what the hell the final boss is gonna be like. People did theorize one of the game's main taglines is to tear down the wall between dimensions, or something like that. And I believe Izuka said the Super Emeralds from Sonic 3 reside in another dimension. So some suspect we might get Hypersonic again after all these years. Who knows? Or they may just stick with Supersonic for the end in a specific way. It's tough to say for now. Who knows? It might be banger though, on top of the fact the game's marked to be 20 to 30 hours long for most normal playthroughs, and a completionist run would take double that amount, so 50 to 60 hours, marking this as the longest Sonic game in the whole series, and the longest Sonic game since, say it with me, Sonic Unleashed. A long-ass Sonic game after 3 hours of just forces, that is another awesome thing to hear. And going back to the story elements and Chaos Emeralds and Super Sonic being plot relevant again after 11 years, the story and tone sounds and feels so melancholy and serious, yet effective and awesome, not even in a try-hard way like Forces was. I love it. Little dance Sonic does when he gets the emerald in one cutscene, the cutscene where he's talking to Amy too after he saves her. Roger also sounds deeper too in this game, and when you're used to the constant quippy comedic inflection Roger has for Sonic for, god, decade and a half now? Almost. It's off-putting, but I dig it at the same time. I'm unsure if the memory tokens are literally Amy, Knuckles, and Tails' memories. I feel like that's the only other amnesia branch I could think of, because unless there's some kind of amnesia with Sage or the voice talking to Sonic, I feel like the amnesia story might have been a stretch, because I have no clue where amnesia is tied to anywhere in this game thus far. Maybe the cyberspace levels too, but I legit have nothing to link that to thus far. But all of that, the writing thus far, the music too, again that dance, also Sonic getting launched by that Titan through the rocks, literal anime moment. Like, this is the most Sonic has felt in a long time to me. Like, oh my god, all the story and narrative details look and feel so naturally like Sonic to me than Colors, Generations, Lost Worlds, and Forces ever did combined. that voice Sonic hears that isn't Sage is also apparently from a character he recognizes, so I'm mad curious about that. I'm mad curious if Sage and the technology gets further elaboration and backstory, the whole reason for Knuckles getting involved, which we'll know in the animated prologue, further interactions with Sonic and Amy, how Tails is doing, how Eggman's doing, just fumbling around in cyberspace by himself, if any other characters are involved, what the end game and final boss will be like, if Sonic gets any major or particular interactions, lines, or even character moments of his own. Like, the story seems pretty interesting so far, and the best since Sonic Unleashed. How'd you know I was gonna say Sonic Unleashed? Man, oh man, you're good at reading me, bro. The music thus far sounds solid too. It's got that synth-style techno composition Forces had. I can vibe with it here more though, thus far with the Cyberspace levels. The Starfall Islands theme / Chronos Islands theme, unsure which specifically. It sounds beautiful. I'm Here sounds fine so far. Not the most resonant Sonic song for me. I do really like Vandalize though. I think that's gonna be a great ending theme and probably the best since Dear My Friend from Sonic Unleashed. I know, dude. I feel like Sonic Unleashed is probably the closest Sonic game you could compare if you had to compare Frontiers to a previous title. But it is doing a lot of firsts for the series since that game, so it's kind of hard not to compare, and when plenty of others could probably agree with me on that. Really? If any specific part of Frontiers leaves me in disapproval, and even this is debatable, it's the Cyberspace levels, and I already ripped this apart in its own video almost 2 months ago. There are two sides when it comes to the Cyberspace levels, in that one side is indifferent / on board with the fact Cyberspace stages are short, repurposed versions of older stages in both theming and design, and there's another side that does not like any of that at all. And as far as me, if my previous video wasn't enough, I'm literally a mix of both with the Cyberspace levels, condensing that video here. On the plus, there are confirmed to be some Cyberspace levels that will have completely unique and original design. Can we talk about how literally insane this city levels design is? This open 3D nature, the lack of automation, the proper sense of control, branching paths, solid blend of normal terrain, platforms and grind wheels, etc. Like, this level you're watching right now has awesome level design and looks incredible, and I really hope later in the game there are more levels with this kind of design, and there's speculation there may be upwards to more or less 50 Cyberspace levels. So there's a lot of them in this game, even if they're around like 35-ish like I originally thought. And again, assuming that amnesia and memory stuff's true, the levels being Sonic's fragmented memories of older levels gives these stages the most legitimate reason to repurpose both their themes and level design. It's not even the biggest part or main centerpiece of Sonic Frontiers either. As I've emphasized, there's so much more to this game, and the vast chunk I talked about didn't even involve the Cyberspace levels. And at the very least, all the stages thus far have different music from their original counterparts. At the same time, it's the 5th Sonic game in a row repurposing older stages and level design on top for the game's linear stages. Even if narratively it fits more than the last 4 games, doing it for the sake of the story is also the same exact excuse the last 4 games had. Even the good ones like Gens and Mania, many who adore those 2 games still came out and agree the newer stages were the best part of the latter, and people wanted more newer stages in those styles. And yet on the other side of the coin, they're optional, so even if some are bad or you'd rather not deal with them, they're not your main way of obtaining vault keys for Chaos Emeralds. You can obtain vault keys for Chaos Emeralds, exploring the game and doing other stuff, and yet again, at the same time, we'll say what I just said about it being optional, so it's not a mark against it in their view. I kinda think that's BS. That's like if I said Super Mario Sunshine's secretly one of the best Mario games, because you can avoid getting the blue coins, as they're entirely optional too. That's still a part of the game, that's still a flawed part of Mario Sunshine, and a part of the game a ton of people are going to experience regardless. The same applies for the Cyberspace levels, and if they're going to be a flawed part of the game for X or Y reason, in my opinion anyways, avoiding them, whether for the sake of avoiding either reused / poor level design or reused theming or whatever, doesn't take away from the fact they're still a part of the game. I feel like emphasizing the fact you can avoid a flawed / divisive part of a game that's still in there shows more that that is going to be a point of contention for players, and for me, even beyond the fact I'm a completionist when it comes to Sonic, I judge, critique, and review a game with the sum of all of its parts. I judge the entire package. I feel like a ton of people do the same as well. So, like, yeah, it's optional, but that doesn't make it go away or not make it a part of the game. I feel like it's unfair to review and judge a game in its entirety if you're going to blatantly ignore a specific part of the game, regardless of it being optional or not. When it is still a part of the game, thousands of people are going to experience anyways. And even then, I'm not even completely against it either. I'm basically making the most of it and seeing it both ways, because some Cyberspace levels completely rip design from Generations Green Hill, Chemical Plant, Windmill Isle Act 1 Sonic Unleashed, City Escape from Sonic Adventure 2, etc. But it's also the fact they're mismatching those older theme stages and blending them with stages designs from other Sonic games. Like one screenshot of a Sky Sanctuary Cyberspace level has Dragon Road Days design from Sonic Unleashed with Chemical Plant enemies in it. So I am curious to see if any other levels from Adventure 2, Adventure 1, Unleashed, Heroes, etc., maybe even 06, get translated into a redesign for the boost gameplay. I think that could be interesting, and it is incredibly deliberate that they're reusing older level design too. Iizuka mentioned they want to repurpose older levels and give players that sense and reminder of, wait, I remember this level, that nostalgia effect. So to me, it's the closest to a Throwback Galaxy or Odyssey Mushroom Kingdom effect. But again, that's literally verbatim the exact same excuse for the last 4 Sonic games, having Green Hill and 2 to 3 of those games having Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, Death Egg, etc. Some aren't also too keen on them being super short either, like Forces and Colors stages were. I'm indifferent as far as the length, them being labeled 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, etc. That is mad off-putting for a Sonic game, in my opinion anyways. I'd rather they be longer too. I also hope their design's good at least. Kishimoto described in an interview of the whole world map concept from Mario Bros. 3 and repurposing that into Frontiers' open world gameplay. That's why the levels are labeled as such. I'm never gonna get used to that when these levels had, and still have, established names and identities, dog. A lot of the reasoning and excuses for repurposing older designs and themes are essentially the exact same as recent entries. It's just how they're executing them here makes their reasoning more legitimate, and the reused design thus far is from good levels from good Sonic games, so by default they're technically good level design, but they're not new or original whatsoever at that point. But just the whole other half of having good levels too, and why Generations levels, and especially Mania's levels, hold up well. Even still, there is some fun and intrigue to be had with how many other kinds of level designs and themes they can repurpose and mixed into a boost stage, right? I do hope we get more themes for the Cyberspace levels too. We've seen the same 4 themes over and over. I want there to be more, and I definitely want more original designs, like that one 3D city level that looks utterly amazing. I really hope there's more of that in the game. But there's so much nuance. There's so much nuance and context surrounding the Cyberspace levels and the discussion around them. Like plenty of other divisive talking points with any video game I always try to highlight, that it's definitely not a cut and dry or black and white thing, as one side or the other try to make it out as. They're a smaller part of a humongous and long Sonic game. They're optional, but they're still there. They're still a part of the game. Most are still reused level themes and level designs from past Sonic games. One of the same problems every main game since 2011, technically 2010, has had. They can still be very fun. The original and unique levels are genuinely awesome at that same time. I'm on both sides of the spectrum with the Cyberspace levels, not even just in the middle. And I said this in that Cyberspace discussion video too, if this entire discussion didn't spell it out, the flawed negatives of the Cyberspace levels are far from killing this game for me, when there are parts of the Cyberspace levels that I think are good, great even, and there's so much more to the game that's excelling in a lot of areas. And yeah, I'd rather people review and judge games either by their own experience, if not the entire game with the sum of everything it has to offer. But the game having all these ways of progressing and clearing it is also a huge thing going for this game too. I feel like most fans to some degree are going to indulge in everything the game has to offer, but if you're looking for that traditional linear Sonic experience, you just have to roam around and seek out these towers and portals for the Cyberspace levels with a little exploration and combat on the side. If not that, you can solely just explore the islands and do puzzles, roam about, and clear the game that way. You just have to do the very first Cyberspace level and that's basically it. Between that, the ease of access to the controls and tutorials and sliders for Sonic's speed, acceleration, and control, this game has a ton of accessibility behind it, which is a very good thing. It allows many different types of gamers to progress throughout the game in different ways beyond just it being an open world sandbox game. game. You can explore in many different directions you so choose, but you can also pick your own objectives for your specific end goal. That's a definite positive and is going to go a long way in this game's longevity, alongside the open world design and nature of it all. I could say Odyssey with the moon structure, but it honestly reminds me a lot more of Mario 64. That game is popular and beloved, one of the main reasons in that outside of the first 1 to 3 stars, almost any star in that game you can basically get out of order. Getting out of chronological order in a specific world, accessing different worlds in a different order each playthrough, allowing that freedom to give the player the choice for how they want to progress, like not even just accessibility, that's going to make Sonic Frontiers incredibly replayable for plenty of people alone, in spite of its sheer length and amount to collect and upgrade. Not only that, between that, the sliders, upgradable speed and other stats, and the cyberspace levels too, with even tech in this game! If the homing attack cancel tech is a foreshadow of anything more, the game's speedruns are gonna be wild, dude. The speedrunning community is gonna have a field day with Sonic Frontiers if Breath of the Wild's anything to go off of too, or even just discovering stuff. People are finding new stuff about Breath of the Wild over 5 years later.
That, and if Frontiers is a great game, 2022 will legit go out as one of the best years for Sonic, unironically, in a long time, between Frontiers, the Sonic 2 movie, Sonic Prime this winter, the IDW comics, to some extent, albeit mixed in its own way, Sonic Origins. Like, a lot happened this year for Sonic. And when most of the big stuff wound up being great and well received across the board, that's another huge dub for the blue guy.
The combat looks really cool and exciting. The open zone design and platforming, factoring everything, looks wonderful. The amount of incentive to explore and just roam is incredible with all the collectibles. There's a lot of depth and thought put into a large chunk of this game. There's some fun to be had with the cyberspace levels, and even then, the original designed ones look anywhere from decent to flat out fantastic. The overall setting looks good, the story looks great thus far, the music sounds solid, the writing and voice direction seems great thus far too. Like, I can fully believe Sonic Frontiers is going to shape an entire generation of new Sonic fans along with the old, will sell very well, and be that new great 3D Sonic game fans were dying to finally get their hands on. I feel like this might be the one we've been waiting for, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. If you're in the running to rival Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope as my game of the year, that's how you know there's a lot of confidence, faith, and standards set for this Sonic game, and I never thought I'd be saying that about a new Sonic game, right when we're probably about to get one of the best Mario games ever. Deadass. But even with that, talking about myself and the channel for a little bit before I go, you can bet your ass I'm getting this on launch. Probably double dip on the Steam and PS4 versions. I do not have a PS5 like the majority of people watching this video, but this is a game I need to see in 4K 60 frames per second. Really glad I upgraded my PC a couple years back. So if I let's play or stream this game, it's probably going to be PC, but that's assuming it comes to pass. I understand wanting to do it on launch day like I did with Mania and Forces and reviewing them upon completion, but I haven't been a stranger to holding off on playing those games for the channel and reviewing them far after release, far past the point of peak hype relevance, for the sake of playing the hot new Mario or Sonic game, anything along those lines. I did it with Bowser's Fury, Mario Strikers Battle League, Luigi's Mansion 3, some of the recent Zelda and Pokemon games too, etc. Like, I have a horribly good track record of getting games I want to play and either not playing them or holding them off, either for the sake of the channel or to focus on other stuff like working out, getting better at Smash and such. And Frontiers is making me reflect on the whole Sonic series too. And for a long while, I've been wanting to play past Sonic games for the channel and just going ham in these massive analytical reviews I know for a fact would be the next big step for my channel, and I know a vast majority of my audience would love, not even just for Sonic games too, Mario and other series too, it's not even just Sonic, but like, I know that's going to take a ton of time. I'm not going to do a whole Road 2 thing like I tried before Forces to where I only cleared 06, but I did play Forces upon release, so there is that strong chance I do play it for the channel when it comes out November 8th. But like with Bowser's Fury, Strikers, and I kid you not, hundreds of other games I got lined up to play and talk about on this channel, I feel like something like that, and especially my review on Frontiers, is going to require a bunch of time and care. I also want to make content that'll last for years to come, and will be fun to watch over time, not just for the sake of it being the next big Sonic, for the sake of relevance, basically, you know? That, and I have no clue how much of my time Sparks of Hope is going to take up. I'm planning on replaying Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle on my own accord, let's play Donkey Kong DLC, and make a fat review for that whole game before Sparks of Hope comes out, because I never reviewed Kingdom Battle. But yeah, I might play Frontiers on release, but I'm def's gonna take my time with playing through it and reviewing it, especially because I feel like my discussion and reviews can be much better than they ever were on this channel, and there are already a ridiculous amount of ideas and projects I already have for the channel already started or in progress right now, so I could see myself putting off Frontiers content to get other stuff done, and I have confidence my audience would still enjoy it long after the fact, and my channel would still do fine anyways. I have faith and confidence in my content attracting that larger appeal and engagement with or without relevance and current events in gaming. Time will tell. I'm definitely going to think about it more, but Sonic Frontiers could very well be that big Sonic game that'll actually last a long time and be a genuinely great 3D Sonic game that fans have been begging to finally gloat and praise about after all this time. I'm looking forward to playing it when I get the chance. I could even see it be my game of the year if it wows me as much as or more than Mario + Rabbids does. It's hard to say. I think it's possible. It is Mario + Rabbids though, and they're doing like everything people want the new Paper Mario games to do. It's like all the good stuff from the RPGs, basically. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day and consider sticking around for my other and future Sonic content alongside Mario and more. Stay super.
Ha!